Hello and welcome to Romantasy Readers Podcast. I'm Nicole, and as always, I'm joined by my wonderful co-host, Alley. We are so excited. We have a very special guest today. She has exploded onto the Bookstagram and Booktok world this year with her New York Times best-selling novel, Butcher and Blackbird. We'll be discussing everything today from lovable serial killers, plucking versus gouging of eyeballs, and of course, cookies and cream ice cream. Please welcome BRYNNE Weaver. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to speak with you today.
Oh,
we're so excited to have you.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you today. I think from the moment I saw your book kind of land, I started seeing people posting like reels and things about reading Butcher and Blackbird. And apart from that gorgeous cover that you created, I was just like, that looks very interesting. And I had to read it. And it is just nonstop entertainment from beginning to end. That's just what I felt about your book.
Thank you. Well, that's honestly how I felt writing it. I just had such a fun time, and I just kept thinking about like, I just want it to be fun. I want to have fun. So it's great that that kind of comes off the page, and that people are feeling that way when they're reading it.
Yeah, amazing. So today, just as a bit of like planning, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of do this interview in kind of two parts. So for our audience that hasn't read your book, we're going to start with a bit of a spoiler-free zone. So sort of for the first 15, 20 minutes, we'll just ask you some general questions about the book for anyone that hasn't read it. Then we're going to enter into spoiler zone. We're going to go into all things Butcher and Blackbird and getting prepared for the sequel, Leather and Lark. So, and we will absolutely let our audience know when we're transitioning over. So for anyone that hasn't read Brynne's book, please hang around. We will not be giving any spoilers away initially. So yeah, so start with, tell us all about this journey that you've been on and how it's felt to just have this book and have it explode and how it's been for you.
Yeah, it's been really wild. I guess that comes as no surprise saying that. When I first put it out, I didn't even have a pre-order for it. I wanted to see, like, I'm a bit of a data nerd, so I wanted to see how it would perform against the other books that I had released previously where I'd always had a pre-order. I kind of felt like maybe Amazon was messing around with the ranking. So I just wanted to see what would happen. And it wasn't like a massive release when it first came out. It took about 2 weeks, and all of a sudden people started finding it. And I had done like my normal stuff. Like I did a cover reveal. I had my lovely ARC readers were reading it. And I kind of like got an idea from there first when they were contacting me and like telling me that they had read it and they loved it. Like they were very effusive about it. And so I was like, oh, well, I guess they really like it. That's awesome. But I never expected it would just like, well, I say that. I didn't think it would just suddenly explode like that, but I always sort of felt like something would eventually catch, or I hoped that it would,
Yes.
I like believed that it could, but I didn't expect that it would explode in the way it did. And I had no concept of what that would look like down the road, what that could become. I had no idea that where I am now and the things that are happening kind of in the background. I had no idea that that would become reality for sure.
Oh, it's got to be like a dream. It's got to be just like the ultimate author dream to just feel like you have that moment where you think, holy shit, I've made it. Like, this is it. It's happened.
Yeah.
And when you were writing it, did you feel like you were writing something special? Did it feel different to other things before?
It felt special to me. I mean, every book has a different vibe to it, has a different feeling. They like Black Sheep felt really special to me. Marrows felt really special. Like they all have something where I think like, oh, that really like resonates with me. I kind of carry it with me. But B&B was just like, it was so much fun. And I had like at the same time that I was writing it, I got really sick like a few times. I got strep throat about 4 times, like back to back to back. And so I was feeling like really miserable, but I was having like, it was kind of like my relief of like, oh, I'm going to have fun and just like have fun with these characters a little bit. And I got just so sucked into their world. So yeah, it feels very special. And of course, now it's got a very special place in my heart because of everything that's happened. But yeah, I just had a blast. I just had so much fun doing it.
Yeah. Yes, so we're recording this the day after Independent Bookstore Day in the US. And I went into my local bookstore. It's like a romance only bookstore here in Salt Lake City called Lovebound Library. And I was with my husband and I saw your book and I was like, oh, I read it on an e-reader. I'm gonna buy the physical copy since we're interviewing her tomorrow. And this like three people were like, did you just say you're interviewing BRYNNE Weaver? And I was like, yeah. And they were like, oh my God, I'm obsessed with that book. And the owner was one of them. The owner came over. She was like, you should tell her that book was phenomenal. I was like, okay, I will. So even just like this tiny little comment that I made, people are just like freaking out. They love it so much. For listeners or people watching who maybe haven't read the book, this might be a hard question. How do you describe this series to readers? Are there any comparable series? Like, how do you pitch it?
I honestly don't know if there are any other comparable series to it. I don't like
No.
I have not really encountered myself personally any like dark rom-coms. I'm sure they might exist out there. I don't want to claim to be the first or anything, but like I would say it's kind of like if you took elements of sort of British dark humor and like your favorite horror movies and romance and like put them into a blender. Like see what you come out with. That's probably going to be Butcher and Blackbird is going to be like what you come out with in your crazy smoothie. So yeah, it's like two serial killers who kill other serial killers who find love out of friendship is probably how
Oh,
I put it in
yeah.
a
I
I
always
feel
felt like because I typically read romantasy, and my one exception has always been Ali Hazelwood because she's so funny and so intelligent. And I felt like when I started reading Butcher and Blackbird, I was like, I had that similar kind of feel, I guess, the humor and the love story. But then it has this whole blend of like kind of Dexter, like these serial killers killing serial killers, and I love that you spoke about it, just having that mix of sort of like movie kind of horror comedy because I feel like this almost has a movie kind of vibe to it. It's like entertaining like a movie. Like you just feel like I could just see it kind of becoming a movie on the cinema. And I would love that. So it kind of I can see how it maybe had those feels. Oh, is there something you're gonna
You
reveal to
never
us
know.
just yet?
You never know. But I do, I like see it like a movie in my head. Like
Yeah.
when I'm writing it and I hear the characters talking to one another. So I try to like put that in. I try to describe what I'm seeing and hearing and how they're reacting to one another and to their situation. So I'm really happy that that comes through because like in my head it's really vivid, like very visual. And like even like years later, if I go back to a previous book that I've read and I read a little bit of it, I see it in the same way still. So it's like that doesn't, it kind of imprints and doesn't go away. So
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, what made you want to write sort of like a dark romance comedy book about serial killers? What kind of motivated you to write a
Where
book
did
like
that
this?
inspiration come from? Yeah.
I think, well, a couple of things. It was like a mix. It was like a perfect storm. So at the time on TikTok, it was when they were like, these are my red flags in books and these are my green flags. And I saw somebody had done like her red flags were like a bunch of dark romance stuff. Like, it was very, very dark romance coded. And I was like, oh, that's kind of a shame. Like, cause all of her,
That's all
her
the
male
fun
main
stuff.
character stuff is all stuff that I liked. And then her green flag was friends to lovers. So I was like, oh yeah, now it's kind of activated my spite gene, which runs real strong. I was like, I'm going to just mash these things up together. But I also like I'm a huge lover of British comedy, like dark British comedy. I love like movies like Hot Fuzz. That's my favorite
Oh,
movie.
yes.
I love old school horrors like Silence of the Lambs and things like that. Texas Chainsaw, the original. But like one thing that those never really have is a good romance. Like even Dexter, which I really liked the first few seasons of it, when I dropped off was when his wife was murdered. And I was like, oh, yet again, the female love interest is murdered to serve the male main character's like
Yes.
advancements of his storyline is like, what a bummer, you know? So I wanted to have like a romance with these other things that I love.
Yes.
And that's kind of how it
I
sprung.
I love that you said that so much. I was going to ask you about this later because I think I read that you're a pretty big Aliens fan, which Aliens is literally one of my favorite all-time movies. I love it. It is literally my favorite. Like I just
We talk
but
about it all the time. Like when she says that, she's for real because I
yeah.
knew this about her because it's like every other conversation. She's
Yeah,
like,
no, I
I love
seriously do.
it.
I at like 12 years old, I went and I bought like the VHS of it, the director's cut with the bonus 15 minutes. Like, anyway, but the thing I love about it is not just the action, it's this slow burn romance that is happening between Ripley and Hicks. Not that it ever comes to turn into anything, because that's what I really wanted Alien 3 to be all about, was about their romance, and that didn't happen. But like Terminator, same thing. There's a whole romance part. There's all the action and the scariness, and then there's this whole romance. And I'm like, that's what we want. And I don't think you see that much in those kind of action horror movies anymore. You get it in maybe your B grade rom coms, but you don't get it in your action movies and that. And I really want to see that again.
And it's always written from that male perspective, and I think even when it's done, even when a female character like that is done very well, like Ripley is incredible, and what I think he nailed or they nailed so well about Ripley is that, like, she's literally telling them, like, "Don't let the dude in, he's infected, like, we're all gonna die," and they're
Yeah.
like all the men are like, "No, we're gonna do it anyway," and she's like, "Oh, for God's sakes," like, so the only
I'm
one that's
telling you.
yeah, she's like, "I am telling you guys, like, this is what we need to do." And they never listen to her, and the only one that survives is her and the cat. Like, it's amazing. It's so amazing. But still, like, the romance part is, like you said, like, it's lacking. It doesn't ever carry through. And it's not like it just can't quite get there, right? Because it's still through that male gaze. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, Ripley, I feel like is one of my ultimate FMCs of all time. And I love that she is so strong, but she's also quite feminine. Like she's strong in her femininity. Like it's her mother instinct in the second movie that she's like, I'm gonna go and kill the mother alien and I'm gonna do it all by myself because I'm a mama bear and you don't mess with my you don't mess with my babies. Like, and I just I love that it wasn't about her kind of becoming masculine. She kind of owned her femininity and just went with it. So
Yeah, it like almost got there, didn't it? It's so amazing. Like I love it. I love the first two, not the third so much, but like so well done. Just didn't quite get there because it didn't have the romance like
I
fully fleshed
know.
out.
That's what the ultimate third movie could have been. My husband had never watched them, and then I was like, "Oh my god, you're missing out. Like you have to watch these." And then he was like, "Gonna watch the third one," and I was like, "No, don't do it to yourself. You don't need to." But he still went, and he was like, "Wow, that was bad. That was a really bad movie." But anyway,
Yeah, anyway, I was like,
spoilers.
as someone who has not watched Alien, which it sounds like I need to. I really need to. I'm sure my husband, as soon as he listens to this episode, he's gonna be like, "What? How did I not know you've never watched this? I must show you this movie." He's a big sci-fi guy. So without giving away too many spoilers, do you feel like as you were writing, what were some of the hardest scenes to write and what were some of the easiest scenes to write for you?
Oh, I love that question. I think like some of the easiest ones, like when I started, I'm quite a pantser and I don't like just stick with I don't do it anymore anyway. I don't like write in a linear fashion. I'll like just do scenes that really appeal to me at that moment in time. And then I'll go back and I'll like make them all work together. So when I started it, I wrote like the first chapter and a half and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with it or where it was going to go. And then I got the idea for like the scene later on. I'm not going to give too much away, but where they're like standing outside of a dilapidated house and things happen. So then that was like a really fast one to write. The dinner scene was super fast. Like once I got that idea of like how I wanted to pull in some of my favorite like inspiration from my favorite horror movies, then I was like off to the races. I think one of the hardest scenes for me to write was probably um actually their first spicy scene, which is super unusual for me because normally those scenes I'm like really I can go through them really quickly. But for me, for that one, it was like Rowan in particular, dude had waited so long to read
It's so long.
that moment. And I was
Burn.
perfect. I want it to be perfect, like more for Rowan even than like, I mean, Sloane, I thought like he's going to take such good care of her and like she's going to be so happy. But like for him, it was like so important for it to be like a great first moment. And he was like, no, I got this. So once I started, I was just like nervous to start that scene because I was like, what if I let Rowan down? But he was like, no, I'm good.
You just put the ball in his court and it was all good from there.
Oh yeah. He was like, I've been waiting for this moment.
Okay, so do you have any favorite characters or character that you wrote?
Like from this series in particular?
It can be from this series or if you've got one from your previous books as well.
Well, I really love this is very hard to pick a favorite. They all like appeal to me in different ways. Lou and Ashen from I wrote like a paranormal. It is kind of like a dark rom-com, but paranormal. And they like she's just zany. Like she's a zany, like weird, like super funny, like says so many things that just pop into her head. And he's like, so she's a vampire. She's like a siren vampire. And she,
Ooh.
at first she can't use her voice because it'll give her away. And she's kind of being hunted. So she's like trying to keep quiet and not speak at all. And she's sort of dragged into this like, sort of underworld type deal, a shadow realm with this demon. She gets herself bound to him. She saves his life. And he's kind of like this grumpy demon guy, super hot, of course. And so yeah, I like just really loved their banter. And she was so snarky and he would like kind of like warm up and give it back to her. And they were just super fun. So I miss them. Yeah, they're some of my faves.
Oh, do you think you're going to do any more books in that series or is it kind of done and dusted now?
I don't think I'll probably, well, I don't know. I had one that I thought maybe I would do, and I kind of set it up so that I could do another book like connected to that series. So some overlapping characters who are introduced in the third book. But I might like there's a possibility that if it gets picked up by like any traditional publishers in the future, I'd love to just like edit it up and spruce it up a little bit and like republish it that way maybe, which would be super fun. So I think I've just like grown as a writer in time, right? So there are some things I would maybe want to tweak about it, but yeah, I'd love to go back to it and yeah, do
Oh,
that instead of like maybe publishing more in that series. Yeah.
oh, 100%. You have to tell us more about your writing journey and how you went to becoming a New York Times bestselling author. What was that journey like for you?
That's kind of wild. Yeah, it like I just a few years ago I decided I was going to like really actively just write every single day, which I do every single day. Um and I was going to just like put it out into the world and see what happened and learn from that journey. Like I said, I'm a bit of a data nerd, so I do really actively look at things and test the waters and figure out what works and what doesn't work and like grow from there. I think giving up the idea that I had to do it a certain way was like an important milestone for me because up until that point, I've like written since I was a kid, but I wouldn't finish things or I wouldn't put them out in the world because I wasn't doing it the way that I thought I had to, which is like plotting and outline your characters and do it like this. Like you don't have to do it like that. You know, you
Yeah.
can do it your own way. And so once I embraced that, like my brain doesn't work like that, I can't just like sit down and write out a plot and write out an outline. It never works. I always give it up because I get too wedded to this like outline. So once I started doing that and like I'm very not good at waiting for things, so I didn't want to like go down the querying process. I thought like, well, I could self-publish it. Like then I'll get it out and I'll learn something and I can grow from there. So that's what I did. And then eventually like when B&B started blowing up, it gained the notice of actually foreign publishers first. And then that's how I ended up finding an agent and getting traditionally published from there.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, and it's so interesting you say that because I've read, that a lot of authors, they tend to fall into two categories, either sort of the ones that just want to have this whole plot planned in advance, all kind of planned out, and then they'll write from that, and others that are just totally creative, where they almost just need to start writing, and as they're writing, the ideas will pop in and come to them, and that's kind of their creative process. And I think it's about, as you said, owning what your style is and just embracing that and going, this is how I write, this is my creative process, and this is how I think it's going to work. And I think for a lot of, we've often discussed with authors and together about how the way that things are nowadays with Instagram and Booktok and things, it's just sometimes about just get stuff out there. People want constant streams of content, whether it's books, movies, reels on Instagram. They just want constant content. So it's almost about just getting it out there and learning as you go. And I'm so glad you got it out there because that's how we found it, and it's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, and I agree with you. It is sometimes like you just have to go for it and you just have to trust your instincts, and it's very, very difficult to do, but you have to like shut out some of the noise of like, you must do this thing. Like, you don't have to do that thing. Like, you can, like, you must read all the craft books. Like, I haven't read a single craft book. Like, I read a lot of books and I get the vibes and then like I understand sort of the mechanics of it, and instinctually that's kind of like built in, but like there is no right way to do it. Like, you just have to trust what works for you and follow that path. And if that path is like, I need to read more craft books, I need to understand how to outline better, then that's great. Like, that works for some people, it works beautifully, but that doesn't have to be the way it is.
No, absolutely, 100%. All right, awesome. Well, Ali, do you have any final non-spoiler questions to ask Brynne before we jump into our spoiler zone?
No, I don't think so. I think I'm ready for the spoilers. I'm ready to talk about the details.
It's hard to kind of keep it under wraps, I think. It's kind of
It is.
like,
It
I
really
just want to break it down.
I
Okay.
almost did it there. I was like, oh, dang.
So let's just get it out there. Okay, so for anyone that doesn't want spoilers, we are jumping into spoiler zone. So please jump off now and jump back on once you've read the book. But for everyone else that is here, we are jumping into spoilers. So, Ali, do you want to ask the first question?
Yeah. So you have some very interesting scenes in your book that include food in very interesting ways, particularly some scenes that have maybe traumatized some readers around the consumption of cookies and cream ice cream, orzo pasta. When I actually surveyed my Bookstagram account, I was like, I'm interviewing Brynne Weaver. What do you want to know? And the main question I got was just, why?
Why did you have to ruin things? I like to ruin things. So it's a pretty simple explanation there. I think orzo, I have literally, since I first knew that orzo was even a thing that I could eat, which was surprisingly like kind of late. I didn't have like, my mom wasn't a great cook. She didn't like diversify very much. So I didn't even know orzo was a thing until it was probably in my like early 20s. And by that time I already knew what maggots were. And I always thought that they looked very similar. So I don't know how I managed to just like put it in a book, but it happened. And then, and then ice cream was, because Lauren Beale, she's a friend of mine. And when I was writing B&B, I was like, had some trepidation about David and how far I was going to take him as a character, a lobotomized man. And I didn't know at that stage at all that he was going to be the bad guy. Like, I had no idea. And so I was just thinking like, am I going too far with this lobotomized guy? And she was like, no, go farther.
Go all the way.
Go take him all the way. So I was like, okay, I did. It kind of took him to like the extent that I wanted to. And so I put that ice cream thing in as a nod to her for Captured, because she's got like a mayo jar in that one. So it's like specifically for Lauren. Yeah.
We have to thank Lauren, like, because that's just, it's gross, but it's awesome. Like, it was just, you just have not experienced that before. I've never thought of that being a ingredient that could be added to cookies and cream ice cream. And now that we've seen it, we just can't unsee it. But
Yeah.
The cookies and cream ice cream thing, obviously, like, I feel like that's the narrative that got on like social media and people being like, oh my God, the ice cream, you ruined it. But for me, it's the orzo pasta. I love orzo pasta. It's it's like a staple. My husband and I probably eat it like once a week with like different veggies and stuff in it. And ever since I've read the book, like, I now always think of it.
It's
I
automatically going
remember
towards
reading
you.
that scene when and it just like it's such a good visceral way to explain, you know, that like she's delirious because she's like, these maggots look like little orzo pastas, and that scene is like just really is imprinted in my brain, in a way that the cookies and cream ice cream did not like. Yeah, to me it was just like, oh, okay, that's fine. Maybe
Yeah,
I was
all
just so traumatized
ingredient
by it.
choice, but yeah.
and I love that was just how we were introduced to the book as well. Like, you didn't warm us up. It was just boom, orzo pasta maggots. It was just like straight into it. And I loved it. I mean, luckily I don't really eat orzo pasta, and I kind of felt like it was a bit gross anyway, so it only just added to that, but it was
I like
yeah. You like it. And now you're traumatized.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right. Well, I want to jump into talking about our main MMC, Rowan. Tell us about Rowan and your creative process of making this very hot, very sexy, MMC that is also a serial killer,
Yep. So I figured, like, and apologies if I have to mute myself for a second. We got a delivery of like DoorDash, so my dogs might bark in the background. But when I first started writing him, I actually wasn't sure if I was going to deviate from the friends to lovers, and I thought maybe he would kind of start off as a friend, but in fact he had like nefarious reasons for like proposing this game to her or whatever. Like, I thought maybe there would be something about that, but Rowan was like, no, I'm not like that at all. So I just kind of like went with the way that Rowan, this sounds so weird to say, but this happens with all the characters. Like, they want to be the people that they want to be. Like, I don't push, like, this is how my character is going to be. It's almost as though these people exist in the world and I just kind of get to inhabit their lives for a little while. And it was very much like that with Rowan. Like, he's like, I'm the middle brother. I'm a little bit reckless. I like to, make a little show of things sometimes, but I'm kind of a kind-hearted serial killer. So he just sort of developed in the way that he wanted to be. And I felt like he really understood very quickly, because he's also quite solid in himself. Like, he understood quite quickly what Sloane's nature was like, and he was able to kind of like work with that. He's like, oh, she's flighty, so I'm going to figure out something that'll kind of be enticing to her, but without putting too much pressure on her too, because he knows that she's going to just like take off. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I felt like the book really balanced between comedy, romance, and horror. We've talked kind of a lot about all three elements, but what it makes this book so amazing is how well balanced it is. I mean, like, when Sloane is has been captured, right? Like, I'm terrified. I'm sitting there like, oh my God, what's going to happen? I genuinely don't know. But then like moments later, it's hilarious again. So it's just so balanced. Like, did you find that hard to do? Was it easy for you? Like, was that something that you kind of felt like you were aware of from the beginning, or did it just kind of naturally happen?
I think it's actually kind of just an instinct thing for me. Like, I have a dark sense of humor anyway, and I'm like quite fine with like dark elements. And I think I find some things funny that are probably inappropriately funny. I'm like the kind of person who would like burst out laughing at a funeral or something like that. So I think it just is like a natural instinct. And sometimes if I write something, actually, this just happened today, that I'm writing Silent Sparrow, and there's a scene in it where it's kind of like emotionally like Fion's kind of like realizing something about himself, but then it kind of like goes into a bit of humor, and just instinct is telling me I need to just soften that transition a little
Lighten it
bit.
a little bit.
Well, I don't know how that happens. It's just like, oh, this feels a little too abrupt. I just need to like put one or two more sentences in there. We'll soften that, and then it'll be fine. And then it kind of goes back into like, oh, there's a little bit of emotion there again. And yeah, it's like an instinctual thing. I don't know how it
Oh.
happens, but I'm glad it
I mean, I
happens.
think
It's art,
in the
right?
moment when Sloane gets captured by, I think it was Harvey Mead, the serial killer, the really scary serial killer,
Yeah.
I was like terrified. It was like, oh my God, this is really going dark now. Like, this is scary. But it also made Rowan like slip into like, I'm going to destroy you mode. And then like what, only like a few pages later, then they've captured him and they're full on doing like a whole scene with the skeleton, like with his mum's skeleton. It becomes really funny.
That was my favorite scene to write. I loved writing that. I had so much fun with like where she's sliding the mummy up his legs and everything, and he's absolutely like losing his shit. And she's like, "This is amazing," and then he just dies. She's like,
Dies of a heart attack.
Yeah.
yeah, everyone's like, "Well, I couldn't give him CPR." She's like, "Oh, no," and she just like shoves him or shoves the corpse. That's what she does. She shoves him on there. Like, she's so petulant about it. Like, damn it! Like, lost my chance. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. And like Sloane is, and I can't wait to really get into Sloane and, you know, how creating her character, because she's quite a complex little character. Like she's, you know, she's this like serial killer. She's very creative with how she does like her murder scenes, and she plucks out the eyeballs. But then she's also really flighty. She's also really scared of relationships, scared of letting anyone in. And it takes Rowan a ridiculously long time to slowly warm her up and keep her from running away from him.
Yeah, yeah, and I know this sounds like super weird to say this, but this is honestly like part of how I came up with her, or like I guess how she sort of sprung up. But I always kind of did feel like she was going to be a little bit like more on the reserve side, socially not as confident. Like she's confident in parts of her life, like in her work, in her killing. Like yeah, she's got that nailed down, but in the social interactions, she's very nervous, like very much more introverted. But part of like my inspiration for her, something that I did actively kind of like put in there, was that like birds are like that. Like birds are flighty, right? Like birds, I've done a lot of like hand raising birds that have fallen out of the nest.
Oh,
So I kind of like oddly brought that in that like if you, or even if you like approach an injured bird, if you do it too strongly, too directly, then they kind of take off. But if you take your time and you come closer, and then sometimes you back away a little bit, you get a little closer, you go from an angle, like if you work with them, you can get farther than if you just like kind of push yourself on them. And I feel like Rowan kind of understood that innately. Like if I push her so fast, so far, then she will just take off and she won't ever come back because her trust will be broken. So yeah, she had like this weird inspiration of like, I know what birds are like. Lady, like,
I
oh,
love it. I love it. In the scene when he's like on the phone, like, and he's like sent the ingredients for her to cook this
So
like
good.
pasta meal, and then he's just outside her house and he's just telling her over the phone like how to cook this, and all I want is for him to go and knock on the door and go inside.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's killing me as a reader to have to just have the slow burn and just wait and just be patient, because I just wanted him to be there and go inside and kick the spicy stuff off right then and there.
I know, and he really wanted it too, and it took a lot out of him to just, especially the last time that he went and he didn't deliver anything, and he's just like watching, and it was like kind of his test as well to see like, is she kind of warming back up again? Am I regaining this trust with her? And then he's like, okay, yeah, got it. And then he's like, now I can't push it any further. I gotta go. And so he like doesn't even look at his phone, and he's like, I can't look at my phone until until I get home, because I know I will just turn around and then I'll push it too far too fast. So yeah, that killed me for him to have to
Yeah.
put him through that. But it was for him, it was the right thing to do for sure for him.
I love how you created so much tension with it, because I think for a lot of readers, the friends to lovers is probably a little bit less popular than like your enemies
Yeah.
to lovers, because enemies to lovers just creates this really natural friction, which, creates a lot of slow burn, that sort of thing. Whereas in this one, you've obviously have done that friends to lovers, but having these personalities, having the situations that they're in, it really does slow it down and it allows that slow burn to still happen, which, yeah, I loved it. It was so good.
Thank you. Yeah, that was like very challenging. I had only really ever done like enemies to lovers before. And so that was, or even like kind of forbidden or whatever. But that was very challenging to try and do friends to lovers. And for a while, I was like regretting all my life choices. I was like, damn it, it's really hard.
Well, the game aspect though, I feel like helps create that kind of
Yeah.
tension and structure maybe. And but yeah, I mean the reason I don't typically like friends to lovers is because there's not enough slow burn and tension. But that is not the case here. It's like you get a little bit and then she shies away again, and they're back to being just like friends. And then you get a little bit and then it shies away. So it was so good. I want to talk about the ending because I felt like I was on the absolute edge of my seat in that ending. And when Rowan tells her, like, go away, go back home, like, my heart was just pounding in my chest. And then, and she believes him and she doesn't realize it. Tell me about like that ending. Was it easy to write? Did you kind of know what it was going to be? Did you struggle to weave it all together? What was the process like there?
I think so. For a while, I didn't know that David was going to be the bad guy. I wasn't sure if it was going to be like an external force, like a police officer, FBI, or something like that. So it took a while to figure that part out. And then once I had that idea, it was like immediately I was thinking, like, what would he do? He would mess around with that first restaurant. He would make it a little bit hellish because he's playing a long game, right? So
Yeah.
he's like, yeah, the bakery oven is gonna like blow up and shit like that. So it was like then I was rolling again, but that getting to that point was a little tricky. And then with that scene, so that became very clear. As soon as I figured out that it was gonna be David, that scene pretty much sprung up in my head right away. Um Writing it though, like from Sloane's perspective was hard. Like
Yeah.
it wrote like I wrote it very quickly, but emotionally it was hard. And I actually did cry like which doesn't happen to me very often when I'm writing, but I felt so bad for her having to hear that and
Uh,
knowing that actually, yeah, she would believe that still. Like she
Yeah.
does
Right.
have that little seed of like,
self-doubt.
maybe it's too much. I'm in his space. It's too fast. Like we've been apart so much. We're used to being independent. Like, so she's got a lot of self-doubt anyway. So that was like really hard to hear for her. But knowing that like Rowan would really he would go that far, like, because the only thing he cares about is getting her out, like, and as far away as possible. And he would cause the most harm to do that, like, to keep her safe. Right. So, yeah, that was hard from an emotional perspective to write, but it wrote like that was very fast though to write. And then her like killing David, that was super fun. Like
I think
I
that ought to
like
be hard.
her being pissed off that like even once he's dead, she's like, I'm very lovable. He's like, I know. Just take this out of my arm, please. Like,
And
yeah, it was so
even the hint that, like, came out, like, as to how she was kind of left to figure out, put the pieces together to realize that Rowan wasn't actually telling her the truth, because it was, like, so painful to have to see her just believe everything. And as you said, her self-confidence is so fragile. She's only just finally opened up, and her whole fear is around being hurt again. To then have Rowan do that, and then just leave those little breadcrumb hints to kind of be like, figure this out so you realize what's really going on. Um, that was really good. That was sneaky. I
Yeah.
almost didn't pick it up for a little while.
yeah, that was really fun. Like, and I didn't like because the hint comes from the ice cream. So I was like really stoked when that that idea came up, and I was like, "Oh, the date of the ice cream, yes!" Like super fun. Like, yeah, that was really really fun to write that whole section where she's like getting it and understanding what's going on, and then calling Lachlan and all that. That was really fun. Yeah.
Mhm.
And have you
And
had many people?
I was going to say, I personally did not see the David twist coming. Like, I am usually very, I read a lot, things are predictable. I can figure things out. And I was just like sucker punched by that. I was like, whoa. It was so great. It was such a great plot twist at the end.
Thank you.
Well,
Yeah.
the commitment he had to his craft.
Yeah,
Like he's in like a special home with, for special needs, and he's just living there. Just like that is how committed he is to this long game.
Oh, that guy is like properly crazy. Yeah, he's like he's definitely in it to win it, right? Like spends a few years like just plotting his revenge. But that was really fun to like finally land on that, like after kind of deliberating about, is it going to be a police officer? And I didn't really want to write law enforcement into it because I felt like it would bog a lot of it down, and it was like quite snappy, like pacing. I liked the pacing. I didn't want to have to like weigh it down with that. I kind of felt like they were so good at what they were doing anyway that they knew how to cover their tracks. They like literally spent hours and hours and hours, days even like cleaning up their scenes, right? So yeah, I remember just talking through it with my husband, and like I think because it was a twist to me too when we were talking through all the different options, and yeah, hopefully a fair few people got surprised by it, because it kind of surprised me. I was like, oh yeah, it could be David. Yeah, cool.
That's it. So I want to jump into Leather and Lark a little bit because we're so excited for this next book. And can you tell us a little bit about what maybe readers can expect from the next book?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I will try not to give anything critical away, but so Lark is obviously, she's Sloane's best friend, and Lachlan is the older brother. So Lachlan is a contract killer by day or by night, but by day he's got like a leather working studio, and he kind of like keeps to himself. He just wants to not have to do the contract killing thing anymore, but there's no way out. And then Lark is Sloane's best friend, who they met at the horrible boarding school where they had a really rough experience. So we get a little bit more of the backstory of what happened there and what happened to Lachlan and the brothers as well. Yeah, so you get a bit of sense of like how they kind of wound up like they are a little bit, or in the positions that they're in. So Lark, you might kind of get a sense from it from the first book, but she's obviously quite comfortable with all of Sloane's serial killing stuff that she does on the side, because Sloane is like talking to her on the phone as she's killing a guy, like doing the
There's little emojis of like knives and stuff. Yeah.
yeah. It's like, oh, how are you doing? She's totally fine with it. So you might get a sense that something is not 100% right with Lark. Like maybe she does have a bit of a dark side, but I know some people are kind of surprised. But yeah, so they end up in a marriage of convenience. They don't like each other. They don't have a good first couple of meetings. Yeah, they really don't like each other, but they end up having to like have this forced proximity. And of course, like relationship sort of develops from there, and a whole bunch of secrets come out. So yeah, somebody described it as like, it's not B&B's twin, it's B&B's sibling. Like it is still a dark rom-com, but they are different beasts, right? Like it's a different couple, a different story. And yeah, hopefully people have fun. It's got like an emotional weight to it, I think, that's like a little heftier.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for Lachlan. I feel like he is a lot darker than Rowan. Just on the like what we pick up from the first book. I'm just like, ooh, I feel like this is going to be a lot. I don't know, he's just more complex, more dark. Just would you say maybe some of the differences between Rowan and Lachlan?
I think he's definitely darker in that way. He's like not got that golden retriever type of energy. He's more like dark and broody.
Rottweiler.
Yeah.
ton of he's had a ton of responsibility, looking after his brothers and the circumstances that they were in, and now he's like in this life that he can't really get out of, right? So I think he's just had such a burden of responsibility on him, and he's serious. Like he doesn't also want to let people in because he has had so much responsibility for these two boys. So he's very hesitant to kind of like let other people into his sphere. And Lark is like this like unstoppable force, right? But she does have a very dark past, and I think hopefully people will see or like resonate with her in a sort of a similar but different way of Sloane. Like she puts on this like super vibrant personality and vibrant face to the world, but there's also a different person underneath that too. And it's kind of like we often have to do that, right? In the world, like operate with one sense of ourself, and then beneath that is like a different person, maybe forged by a very traumatic past. So
Yeah.
As an oldest sibling, I'm excited for Locke. Like I feel like I'm going to really resonate with him. What can we expect from the spice in book 2? Is it going to be about the same, spicier? What do you think?
I would say it's probably similar spice level. It's also a slow burn. I don't want to give too much away.
If it was a cocktail, what kind of cocktail would it be? Like,
Ooh, what kind of cocktail would it be?
I feel like the first one, what would the first one be? It'd be like a dirty martini or something like.
Yeah, maybe a spicy margarita of some kind.
Ooh,
Okay,
okay.
yeah.
That's
I love myself a
exciting.
margarita,
Love
so
a
that's always
spicy
good.
margarita. Yeah, but mine like a spicy, like a jalapeno cilantro margarita.
Oh, I love it.
Great.
I think something I picked up from the first book that I feel like was maybe a bit of an Easter egg into what Lachlan's personality might be was there's this scene with Sloane and Lark talking about the Keanu Reeves movie, and Lark being obsessed with Keanu Reeves and talking about him being dark and grumpy. And I was like, ooh, I bet this is what Lachlan's going to be like.
Yeah.
Yeah, she is like super obsessed, and it does factor into Leather and Lark. And again, you don't want to give too much away, but like she's properly obsessed, like with Constantine, with Keanu and stuff. And so there are some like jokes about that, like Lachlan might be a little bit like, others have told me I'm a little bit like Keanu. She's like, shut
I was
up.
going to dress up as John Wick for you. Like, there we go.
Yeah, he's like, I've been told I'm a little bit. And she's like, don't even go there.
So how many books do you think, can you say kind of what you're thinking for the rest of the series? Are you planning a third for the third brother?
Yeah. Yep, there is the third, which I am writing right now, which is Silent Sparrow. So that's Fionn and Rose.
Mhm.
So Fion's like a small town doctor, and then Rose is a motorcycle circus performer, like in that cage thing. And she is injured not doing that. She's injured doing something that she shouldn't be doing. And she ends up having to stay at Fion's house because, the show must go on without her. So, yeah, it's a little bit like fish out of water on both sides, actually. And friends with benefits. What else can I say about that one? I don't want to give too much away. And I'm still in the process of writing it, so other stuff might come up. There is going to be more ruined food, very unusual though. And yes, it will be like third and final in that series. And then I'll be on to my next series, which has been picked up by my lead publisher, Zando. So I'll be like straight on to a different series of interconnected, dark rom-coms, but like small town feel. Yeah.
Okay, that's all so exciting. Yeah, I
Yeah,
can't
so
wait.
exciting. Oh, all right. Well, that's the end of our question part. We'll start moving on into our game section of our podcast. Allie, do you have any final questions? to ask
No,
about?
I just honestly, it all sounds, I'm excited for Leather and Lark. I'm excited for book 3. I'm excited for what else you're going to do. I just think it's all, and it sounds like, things are really picking up for you. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I'm so excited for Leather and Lark. I think it's going to go, I don't know, my theory is it's kind of just going to go into the next level. Like, it's going to be like, oh, that was just like the appetizer. Now we're getting into the main course. Like,
Yeah, Lark definitely has some like really weird hobbies and like her own take on things. And yeah, it was super fun. It was like very challenging. There was like a lot of other stuff going on. Like I was moving countries and all of that, but it was super fun. So I'm hoping that people just like, yeah, love it as much as I did. I had a blast.
I can't wait to find out more about Lark as well, because it's not your everyday girl that is best friends with a serial killer, and kind of embraces that. So she's going to have a bit of interesting quirks in that herself. So it's very exciting. Not too much longer. We've only got, another month and it's out for us, guys, while we're filming this today. So we're very excited. All right, so our first game, which Brynne, thank you for agreeing to join in on our games today. So our first game is some rapid fire questions. This is a game I love to play with our people who come and join us on our podcast. The aim of the game, we ask you questions and we try and get you to answer as fast as you can. You can't give too much detail as to why. You can give a little bit, because we realize as authors, we kind of want every little bit of information you give us. So you can tell us why, but you've got to try and say it really quickly.
Okay.
All right. You all ready?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I'm oddly like terrified. Okay, go.
All right, here we go. What is your favorite type of MMC? Hero, morally grey, or a villain?
Villain.
Obviously. Do you like a happy ending where everyone lives happily ever after, or a tragic ending that breaks the reader's soul into a million pieces?
Oh my God, HEA all the way.
What kind of FMC do you prefer? The girl who falls in love with the morally grey serial killer, or the girl who is the morally grey serial killer?
Ooh, the girl who is. But I also like it when she does fall for the other serial killer.
Yeah. So, what moment was grosser, in your opinion? The orzo pasta maggots or the cookies and cream ice cream?
Orzo.
Can you give us a clue about which food group is at risk in your next book?
Pizza.
Oh my gosh! What? My brain is exploding now with options. What are your ultimate MMC physical looks? Tall, dark, and rugged, or blonde, chiseled with piercing blue eyes?
Dark and rugged for sure.
Yeah, me too. Who is your biggest inspiration for your novels?
Ooh, that's hard. I don't know. They come out of nowhere, but like Keanu Reeves.
Love it.
Best book to read on a rainy day?
Shoot. Damn it. Butcher and Blackbird. I'm kidding. I'll promo somebody else's stuff because like that's better. I'd say Death's Obsession by Avina St. Graves.
Love it. Love it. What is your favorite thing about the world you created?
That anybody is deserving of love.
Aw, yeah, 100%. What is your favorite non-bookish activity? What do you like to do when you're not writing or reading?
Ooh, riding horses.
Oh, nice. If you could bring something or someone from the books you have created into real life, who or what would it be and why?
Oh
man. I'm throwing you the hard questions, aren't I?
Put the hard questions in the rapid fire.
Like, I wouldn't want to bring Rowan if I couldn't bring Sloane too. Maybe Auntie Ethel from the second book. Like, she would be badass to have as a bestie.
So you wouldn't just get Rowan and keep him for yourself and say.
No, I love my husband to bits. I would pick Auntie Ethel, I think. Because I'd want Rowan to be with Sloane, you see. Like, they're a package deal.
Yeah, 100%. They're perfect for each other.
Oh, no, I know. I'm going to amend it. Bentley.
Oh.
Bentley the dog. Okay. Yeah, he's in Leather and Lark. Bentley.
Okay. Do you prefer an MMC who is confident, funny, and roguish, or dark, broody, and grumpy?
Dark, broody, and grumpy.
Me too. Can you describe who you think is the scariest type of villain? What's the scariest type of villain? Are they like sadistic? Are they intelligent? Is it like a monster?
I think someone who is sadistic, but also like highly ambitious because they will play the long game like David.
Yeah, yeah. What is your ultimate spice level? Mild spice, medium spice, hot spice, very hot spice. So hot you're dying, but if you had to die, it's probably a good way to go.
Well, I'd say probably anywhere hot and above. Yeah, hot and above.
Strongly on board with that on this podcast.
Yeah.
Strongly on board. Is it okay to kill off a main character?
Yeah. I like causing pain. Yeah.
Ooh. What do you think is one thing your fans will be excited to see in Leather and Lark?
Ooh, I think there's something that's coming that is in Leather and Lark, but also separate to Leather and Lark, connected, separate, like something very different that's coming. And I think that would be it. And I don't want to give too much away because it's super exciting.
Yeah, I'm just excited just to hear that. So,
Yeah.
All right. Final question, bit controversial. Who, in your opinion, is the hotter MMC, Rowan or Lachlan?
Shoot. The hotter one. Oh God.
I know.
Well, Rowan
It's like
has that really
favorite
hot
children.
scar.
It's hard.
This is so insanely hard. Like Rowan's got that really hot scar. Rowan's pretty hot. Lachlan is also very hot though. He's got lots of tattoos. I don't know. And yeah, maybe Lachlan. This is really hard though.
Tattoos.
Thank you. That's all the rapid fire questions. Well done. I know we put a few in there to make you sweat, but
you did. Yeah, it was very successful.
All right, our last game is we thought we would help out readers. If they did not listen to like an audiobook, if they're just reading this book, there's some words in here that I personally did not know how to say, especially around food. So we thought we would hold up some of those words and have you help us pronounce them. Now, some of them we started kind of early or kind of easy, and then we were like, okay, let's get further in. There are a couple in here that I'm hoping you know how to pronounce because I definitely don't. Okay, so I'm gonna hold it up. So I have this. So Chipotle. Okay, good. That's
and I'm going to say it with an Australian accent, so we'll see how I go as well. First, I don't know how to pronounce them, and secondly, I'm going to say it the Aussie way. Chipotle.
How do you do this the Aussie way?
Chipotle. Well, that's how I say it. How do you guys say it?
Oh.
I say it more with a hard O. Chipotle. Yeah.
Just because in the States there's the restaurant, so that's
right.
Say it.
Yeah.
Okay. Next one.
Acai bowl.
Well, I know I always say like acai bowl, but I used to say a chai.
And keep in mind too, I might have like I think it's called what it's called, right? So I might be pronouncing it wrong, but I'm gonna rely on my Canadian influences. I might come up with some wacky pronunciations.
I think it's acai. Yeah, my husband goes to Brazil a lot for work, and they love taking him out for acai.
I've realized. Yes.
Oh. Go ahead.
I was going to say that we've got a few French options in here, and I didn't think about the fact that you're Canadian. Do you speak French? I know some Canadians speak French.
No, I mean, I learned French in high school, but I was never in the French speaking parts of the country, like never lived there. So I never had to use it. So I forgot it really quickly. If I have a few glasses of wine, I'll convince myself that I remember my French. But my husband is French. He was born in France. He's not French. It's a long story, but so he helps me if I ever need to do anything in French, because that's his first language. So.
Yes. Okay. Oh, amazing. That probably explains why we've got a certain type of salad, which I'm going to try to pronounce.
Yeah. We're heating up. All right. The words are heating up here. Okay. So this is the next one.
Where did that come from?
It's Turkish. My husband's
Oh.
Turkish, so it's Turkish. My husband's
Oh.
Turkish, so I know.
Oh.
Yes.
Is it Goatslim or something like that? I don't think I've seen
Gözleme.
that.
Gözleme.
Gozleme.
Yeah,
Gozleme?
yeah, yeah, and
Ooh,
it's like
what
a
is it?
savory, like it's like pastry with like a cheese inside, or sometimes they do like a
Oh.
meat or sometimes like a bit of spinach, but generally it's cheese, like in like a pastry. It's super delicious.
Ooh,
So
nice. Now I'm
gözleme.
hungry.
Okay,
I love Turkish food.
next one. And I think that potentially this is spelled differently in Australia, and all of our Google Docs are always like using the Australian spellings of things. I've noticed, like when I will spell things a certain way, it will like autocorrect it. I'm like, wait, that's not how you spell it. So I think when Nicole typed this in, it's something different. I don't think.
Yeah, it's like IE at the
That's
end.
what I thought. Yeah, I think for us it's an IE, but I was like, I think that's
Yeah.
the same thing. Okay, so
Yeah.
we will let you pronounce it with the IE.
Charcuterie.
Charcuterie.
Yeah.
See, I always give it like charcuterie. I give it because I'm from the South, so I always,
Ah.
like to make my vowels a little bit more fun.
Yeah. Charcuterie. Charcuterie. Charcuterie.
Okay, next one.
Foie gras.
Very good. That one's good. I
Foie
thought I knew how to say it, and then I was like, do I?
Foie gras. My husband would make it sound so much cooler than me.
Yeah.
He would like do something with the G that would sound like better than what I could say.
Yeah. The back of the throat, like
Yes.
compared to in Australia,
Is
it just
there
be
a different
foie gras.
Oh,
Beautiful.
okay, next one.
Escargot.
Yes. Escargot.
Yeah. All right. We're getting close to the end. This is the one that I still don't know how to say.
Niçoise.
Niçoise. Okay.
Yeah.
All
I did a
right.
whole reel on this, me trying to pronounce it, because of course I just went with the knee choice, like it's always because I think in Turkish that kind of C is like a ch, so I always go into that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like nisui salad.
Niçoise.
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 And I don't actually know what is Niçoise salad. I don't. Side note, what is it? When it's not made
like
with
it usually has I think it usually has a Dijon type dressing on it. It often has tuna, like cherry
Tuna.
tomatoes.
Yeah.
What else does it have? Oh, I can't remember. My husband's gonna be like, "Oh, come on, seriously." What the heck?
This is just not human.
Like a light, summery kind of salad. Yeah. Greens, obviously. Yeah. Often tuna. Tuna niçoise is kind of a thing.
Tuna and like Dijon is kind of what I'm
Yeah, Dijon dressing. Yeah.
Okay, good to know. Good to
I'm
know.
gonna
I was
have
like,
to try it. I'm off to France in August, so I'm gonna have to go and try it, see what it's like.
Oh, no way. I'm off to France at the end of May.
Oh,
nice.
wow.
Everyone's going but me.
Mm.
All right, last one.
Bouillabaisse.
Bouillabaisse.
Oh. Brynne's all over it. Brynne's all over it. I was like, bully base? Yeah, that's... I don't even actually know what that food is. Like,
I don't know what that is either.
I'm guessing it's like a beef
No, I
or
can't
something.
remember.
A beef stew, I guess.
Maybe a stew or like a sauce thing. I don't know. Yeah. My
Anyway, thank you. Now
have I told you nothing?
I'm just fascinated now to know about this pizza and what that's going to be. All I can think about is anchovies and like what could be worse than anchovies, but like I'm sure that you're going to shock us with something impressive.
I kind of simultaneously, and I don't know, I don't think it's as bad as some of the other stuff, but I don't know how people are going to take it. So I think I simultaneously ruin like 3 things at the same time. So yeah,
I love it.
It's not just pizza's like the critical element, but there's other stuff that goes into that.
Right. So it's more than just our favorite food. It's
also beer and smoothies. So yeah,
I love it. I imagine your creative process. Do you just like sit there and think, what are people's favorite foods and how can I like destroy these?
How can I ruin their core childhood memories? Like stuff like that. Yeah, basically. That's what I'm thinking about for like the third one is like literally like people love circuses. Like what can I ruin out of a circus? A lot, it turns out.
A lot. Yeah, I can imagine.
There's a lot. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today and joining our podcast. So, for any of our listeners that want to get their hands on your books or connect with you online, what are your recommendations? Where's the best place for them to find your books and to connect with you?
So my books are, well, Butcher and Blackbird and soon to be Leather and Lark and Silent Sparrow are widely available at most book retailers and a lot of like indie bookstores. So please check out your indie bookstores. My backlist is only on Amazon at the moment. And most of those are actually, I think all of them are on KU. And then connecting with me, I'm probably most active on Instagram. So it's BRYNNE_Weaver. And I do have a website, which is BRYNNEWeaverBooks.com. And yeah, there's also a very newly launched merch shop, which will be connected with that. But it's kind of like all in my link tree. So yeah.
Ah, amazing. Yes, I saw you released your website yesterday and it looks amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, my incredible PA Val does all of my like graphics and stuff because she's so talented at that. So she did all of the most of the artwork that's used on those pieces, as well as the cover designer did some little bits. So yeah.
Very cool. And what's the official pub date for Leather and Lark?
It's the 4th of June in the US and I think the 6th of June everywhere else. Yeah. They always have different pub dates.
I know. We nearly always in Australia, we're always a few days later. It's only every now and again that we get lucky and we get it like, 12 hours earlier because if it comes out on the same day, obviously Australian time is slightly improved, but no,
Yeah. Yeah.
cannot wait. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing with us all your thoughts and telling us all about what to expect from Leather and Lark and everything from Butcher and Blackbird. We've really appreciated you taking your time. We're so excited for the next book and just want to say thank you as well just for creating this book as well. Like in spite of all the foods that we've been traumatized by, this book has been so fun and so enjoyable for so many people. I know that there's a reason people are passionate about these books and you've created something really special. So thank you so much for creating it.
Oh, thank you so much. That really means the world to me. And thank you for having me. It's been such fun and an absolute pleasure. So I really appreciate you having me on. Yeah, it's been super fun.
Yeah, awesome. Great. Thanks so much, guys. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.